I challenged myself to find out, can I improve my fitness following a plan that is so simple it fits on one single line? Here's my super simple plan. On even days, do 100 pull-ups. On odd days, do 200 kettlebell swings. And every day, eat only one meal. In this video, let's find out if this plan worked out and if it's something you should try as well, or if it was a terrible idea and it's something you should avoid. I'll show you my before and after results, and I'll show you the progress I made along the way as I did this for 30 days. And I encountered some unexpected surprises along the way. My body hasn't caught up in terms of recovery. I don't know, do they show on video? No real issues with hunger. Let's start with day 0. To start this challenge, I did my before measurements. In the morning before my first meal, I stepped on a scale and I got the following results. My body weight was at 76.7 kilograms, 16.5% body fat, 60.8 kilograms of muscle mass, 3.2 kilograms of bone mass. Then I tested my current maximum strength on pull-ups and kettlebell swings. One thing to mention here is that my goal is to find out how many can I do with good form. And that's pretty important, right? I'm not swinging as long as I can. I could have maybe squeezed out a couple more like swinging motions, swing-like repetitions, but just with increasingly bad form. But my goal is to see how many can I do with good form. And after the experiment, same rules will apply. I don't squeeze out as many reps as possible. I want to do clean reps. I managed to do 12 pull-ups and I managed to do 67 kettlebell swings with 24 kilograms. Finally, I took some before pictures so I'd have something to compare to, and then I was off to the races. From then on, I followed this super simple fitness plan. On every other day, I would do 100 pull-ups, and I would do those pull-ups not in a single session. I would spread that out throughout the day. And on every other day, I would do 200 kettlebell swings. So my goal was always just to hit that total number by the end of the day. And I'd usually do this in 3 or 4 or sometimes even 5 exercise sessions spread out through the day. Now I'll show you what my experience with this challenge was like in just a moment, but first, let me briefly explain why this specific plan. Maybe you've noticed that this is not your typical YouTube fitness challenge where it usually goes like this. I did 100 pull-ups a day every day for 30 days. And I think that makes for a neater title for a video, but I don't think it is a very good training plan. And there are a couple of reasons for that. The first has to do with essentially exercise biology. When you exercise, you're essentially stressing your body and then your body recovers, and the idea is that it overcompensates, and that's how you get stronger, right? You're stressing your body, then you're giving yourself rest, and you're stressing yourself and giving yourself rest. And during that rest period, your body overcompensates and you become stronger over time. Now the problem is that generally for most people, it will take you more than 24 hours to get into that super compensation phase. Now, of course, this is an oversimplification and it will be different for different people and different types of training. And certainly highly trained athletes probably follow different rules here. But for a normie like me, if I'm doing 100 pull-ups every single day, it's like the pull-ups I do today, I haven't fully recovered from the ones I did yesterday yet. I would definitely still get a training effect, and such a challenge is definitely very difficult to do. But I don't think it's optimal for me to do something where I just don't get enough rest. So that's the first idea. That's why I'm alternating between 2 different exercises so I get more rest on each muscle group. The second reason is also that if I'm only doing one exercise, it's very unbalanced training. And I mean, even with 2 exercises, there's still quite a lot of muscle groups in my body that are basically being neglected. But this is why I selected pull-ups and kettlebell swings. Both of these exercises are compound exercises that use quite a lot of muscle groups in the body. And combined together, it does feel like almost a full body workout. And let me tell you right away, even with this extra rest I got for each muscle group, this challenge was still plenty hard to follow. Then the second element of this challenge is 1 meal every day. And this is kind of an extreme form of intermittent fasting and something I was just curious about. I have done other forms of intermittent fasting, 16/8, or essentially skipping breakfast. I've done that a lot and I quite enjoy that. And I wanted to see what it would be like to reduce my feeding window or expand my fasting time even more. And the idea with one meal a day is basically this. Every day you have just one meal, or you try to do all of your eating within like 1 hour. So you're essentially getting 23 hours of fasting time every single day. Fasting has various benefits. The way I think of it is that eating healthy foods has various benefits, but not eating at all for extended periods of time has different benefits. And it's been shown that your body goes into kind of a cellular repair mode when you're in a fasted state, and that can be good for things like longevity. Another thing about OMAD, one meal a day, is that it's often advertised as, hey, it's a super easy way to lose weight because you can eat as much as you want and you'll still be hypocaloric, so you'll still get less calories than you expend every day. And I was curious to see what that would be like. So here's how the challenge went. Early on, in the first days, things went actually unexpectedly well, especially when it comes to eating only one meal a day. What I expected was that I would be fighting and struggling with hunger, right? I expected I'd be sitting there going, oh my God, my stomach is grumbling, when can I finally eat? And that would be the challenge. And surprisingly, this just never happened. So this is the first day of one meal a day. So far, no real problems, right? Normally by now I would have eaten something, but I think the one meal a day thing, any issues with hunger or whatever, they're gonna kick in later, right? Day one, so far, no trouble. My plan currently is to have my meal at around 3 to 4 in the afternoon so that it's not too late in the day, but also I didn't want to have it early in the day so that I don't go to bed feeling hungry basically. And we'll see how that goes. I did miss eating in terms of like eating for entertainment almost, right? It's quite nice to go over to the kitchen and get a snack every once in a while. But in terms of actual hunger, I never suffered. In the first week, my training sessions also went pretty well. And yes, I did struggle with this amount of volume. I did have to split things up into multiple training sessions every day. Otherwise, if I would try to do 200 kettlebell swings in a single session, it will probably take me an hour or longer because I'd need so much rest in between the sets. But having said that, early on, it mostly felt good. I encountered my first problem in the first week when I logged some of my meals. I used the chronometer app to log my meals, and what I found was a little concerning. Here's an example of one of the days. So here I had basically a huge bowl, a huge salad bowl with all kinds of stuff, and a big green smoothie plus my usual supplements. And on the one hand, there is good news here, because if I look at the nutritional values, and this is something I like about this app, it shows you all of your minerals, vitamins, and so on and so forth. As we can see here, I'm basically meeting almost all of my nutritional needs on one single meal. And that is great news. What's not such great news is that this is me basically eating as much as I possibly can of extremely healthy, nutritionally dense food. And by the end of it, I've only consumed about 1,800 calories, but I've burned almost 2,500 calories, which means that I'm more than 600 calories hypocaloric. Now, 600 calories in one day is a really big calorie deficit. And I saw a very similar effect the next day. It's basically the same story. I'm still about 600 calories under my requirement. Now, having a huge calorie deficit can be good news if all you want is just to lose weight as fast as possible. But there are also some serious downsides. First of all, I'm trying to gain strength while I'm doing this challenge. I'm not just trying to lose as much weight as possible. In fact, I don't want to lose muscle mass or strength while I'm doing it. And I also need energy to do other things. So while I'm doing this challenge, I'm also running my business. I also have a lot of other stuff going on. I'm trying to be a high-performing individual here. That requires energy, and it also means I need to be well nurtured. So I think that if you're eating only one meal a day, it is very easy to be hypocaloric, but it's also very easy to get, brain fog and be tired and be cold all the time because you're just not getting enough energy and you're just not meeting your nutritional needs. So when I saw these results, it made me worry, and it made me basically double down on trying to eat as much food as possible. And I was scooping peanut butter into my smoothies and stuff like that. And it made me enjoy my food less, and it made me really stuff myself. Coming into this, I thought that the struggle would be hunger because there's such a long period of not eating. But the real struggle is kind of feeling like I have to stuff myself and then still feeling like I probably didn't get enough, even though, yeah, the hunger isn't the problem. The problem is it's kind of an unpleasant way to eat, at least for me. It kind of soured my relationship to food, and that was really one of the things I struggled with during this challenge. But I kept soldiering on, and shortly thereafter, first issues started showing up in my training as well. One of the first things I noticed is that my elbows started hurting. I started developing joint pain, and I had to switch up the way I was doing my pull-ups. And I started doing pull-ups on these grip strength trainers, which are generally there to train your grip strength, but they also have the advantage that you can turn your wrists. And so I think the reason my elbows hurt is because when you're fixed on the bar like this, it's just not very good, anatomically, it's not a very good position to be in. So by switching it up, I could keep going, but basically from day 8 onwards, I was always doing my pull-ups with mild joint pain. I've been doing my pull-ups on these today, and it's definitely helping with the elbow pain. It also feels quite different from doing a bar pull-up, but I can keep going. It's a little harder. Today I've done 70 pull-ups so far. It's already evening and it feels harder this way, but I can keep doing my 100. I also started developing blisters and calluses on my hands, and I had to tape up my fingers. One of them is still taped up right now. That wasn't a huge problem, but again, it was just showing me that I was kind of hitting some of my limits there. I got some blisters and calluses on my hand. One of them popped. I had to tape it up here. So it seems like in terms of kettlebell swings, it's just that my hands are not up to the task of doing this volume of them, and that could become a problem. I hope that by taping up any blisters that appear, I can just keep going. But that's kind of the first limitation I'm noticing that I'm hitting. A new blister has appeared, but overall, mostly it's so calloused that I've got armored hands now. So. About 2 weeks into the challenge, halfway through, I was still doing okay with the 1 meal a day part of the challenge. I rescheduled my eating window a little bit. So instead of eating at around 3 to 4, I eat earlier at around 1 to 2. And I found that I tend to feel quite full even late into the evening. If I have my last bite of food at 4 or so, I still feel kind of full going to bed. So eating earlier works easier for me. In terms of exercise, at this point, I started experiencing something strange, which was that I felt at the same time weaker and stronger. So I would start doing pull-ups and I would feel stronger doing the pull-up, but at the same time I'd also feel all the fatigue from all of the exercise I'd done previously. And it was a weird thing where, I just felt like stronger and weaker at the same time. And it's an interesting thing that's going on, because on the one hand, it felt a lot easier. I did a set of 50 and it felt a lot easier than a set of 50 did at the beginning of this challenge. But on the other hand, it also feels like I'm not fully recovered. It feels like, I can still feel the previous workouts in my bones. As the challenge went on, I felt like I was on a razor's edge of getting just about enough recovery. On a day where maybe I didn't sleep quite as well as usually, I would struggle so much getting my exercise in. But if I did get enough rest, then the next day would be a bit better. But it always felt like I'm just about to fall off the edge into overtraining. Now, another thing I want to mention about the way I trained here is that I set myself the goal to, on every other day, always hit at least 100 pull-ups, and on every other day, always hit at least 200 kettlebell swings. But those were not the only exercises I did. What I would do is, between sets, I would do just other exercises, and I basically do whatever I felt like doing. So on days where I felt more recovered, I would do more exercises in between my pull-up or kettlebell swing sets. And on days where I felt really weak, I would do almost nothing else. My goal here was mainly just variety. I don't want to be waiting around for my next set. I get bored easily. So I'd rather do some push-ups in between sets of pull-ups, for example. And I also use this extra exercise to further balance out my training to make sure it's not too one-sided. Now earlier I mentioned the importance of rest and long enough rest periods in order to make progress. Well, another important ingredient for making progress is actual progressive overload. And this is another reason why I didn't want to make a challenge where I just do X amount of the same exercise every single day. Because I'm trying to gain strength here, I'm trying to actually improve. And so I want to give myself progressive overload. And I did that in two ways. One, I always tried to increase the number of reps I would do in a set. So initially I could do a maximum of 12 pull-ups on a fresh pull-up set. And over time I tried to push that to 13 and 14 and further. And I also tried to push the number of reps I could do in subsequent sets. And with kettlebell swings, the same thing. I tried to do more in one go. And I also added weight. So with the kettlebells, I moved up in weight for some of my sets. And for pull-ups, I started doing some weighted pull-ups. At about 3 weeks into the challenge, there was another unexpected surprise. What I hadn't thought of was that both kettlebell swings and pull-ups are taxing on grip strength. My grip is my most overtrained thing. There's 9 more days to go, so I hope I can make it through before I get injured or anything like that. But I think right now I am overtraining that, but I'm still okay. With pull-ups, obviously you have to hold up your body weight, but these kettlebells are heavy and swinging them around is really quite hard on your forearms, on your grip strength. And so that is the one muscle group that just didn't ever get any rest. Every single day I was taxing my grip strength. And after a while I really noticed that, especially later on when I really felt that fatigue set in. And I noticed that sometimes it would just be really, really hard to hold on to this kettlebell or to keep holding on to the bar to finish all the pull-ups I need to do. It's day 24, and today I'm having kind of a weekday, weak as in opposite of strong, where in the last few days it's just been kind of unpredictable. Some days I feel really strong and I feel like I can crush my workout no problem. Other days, like today, it just feels really difficult. I feel like I can barely get through it. There's also some good news though regarding my hands. That the one blister I had that popped is healed now, and I haven't had any others. In the end, I made it through, and I was really relieved to have my first rest day in 30 days. I gave myself one full rest day and then did my after measurements and the new strength test. It's the moment of truth. It's time to get back on these scales. After this challenge, here's what the scale had to say. My body weight went down to 75.9 kilograms, which is 0.8 kilograms less than at the beginning. My body fat went down to 15.7%, which if we do the math on that, means I lost roughly 0.7 to 0.8 kilograms of fat. In other words, I only lost fat. And the next measurement confirms this. The scale says I still have 60.8 kilograms of muscle mass. So right away, I think these results show that I was worried too much about the calorie deficit, and probably my extra scoops of peanut butter and so on really helped out, because 0.8 kilograms in 30 days is certainly not a dangerous amount of weight loss. But I'm really happy to see that the scale confirms all of the weight lost was only body fat. But then the important question, of course, is, did I actually make progress? So here is my max effort of pull-ups after the challenge.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, you got this, 13, 14, 15, 16, still more left, 17, alright, 16 though.
So I increased my maximum pull-ups from 12 clean repetitions to 16 clean repetitions, and I'm really pleased with that. That is the strongest I've ever been on pull-ups. Next, the maximum test for kettlebell swings. And I'm using 24 kilograms as a weight again here.
10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 61, 62, 63, 64, 65, 66, 67, 68, 69, 70, 71, 72, 73, 74, 75, 76, 77, 78, 79, 80, 81, 82, 83, 84, 85, 86. Good form right till the end.
I reached a total of 86 swings in one set with 24 kilograms, and this is a huge improvement for me. It was also absolutely devastating. I absolutely hated doing this, and it took me what felt like half an hour to recover from this one set. With kettlebell swings, the exhaustion lags, and so when you stop doing them, your heart rate keeps increasing, and it's something weird where, you know, usually you stop an exercise and you stop feeling bad, but with kettlebell swings, for some reason, it keeps getting worse after you finish. I think with my legs I could have done a couple more, but right now it's like my forearm is totally cramped up, and I stopped because I felt like any moment now this thing is just gonna fly out of my hands. Just couldn't hold on to it anymore. But in both cases, I'm seeing very clear strength gains, and I'm very pleased with this result. I also have to say, the way it feels is totally different. One thing I really noticed with the kettlebell swings was that the same weight, those 24 kilograms, just feels so much lighter now. And in fact, sometimes when I was exercising, I would stop and double check to see if I have the right weight, because it just felt like it was too light. So clearly something happened there where my sense of how heavy the weight is has changed a lot thanks to this challenge. And then to round it off, I also took some after pictures so we can see a comparison of how my physique changed before and after. And I think this is, again, I'm pretty pleased with this. As a result from a 30-day training program that is this simple, I think there's a clear improvement visible here. And although the scale says I didn't gain any muscle mass, it feels like I gained muscle mass. It really feels like, especially on my back, basically where you'd expect, right? I've done, whatever, 1,500 pull-ups, and so it feels like I have larger lats. It feels like I'm pushing against my shirts more than I used to. But I don't know if that's muscle gain or if it's just these muscles are just like in a permanently pumped state because I've done so many pull-ups, right? But it definitely feels like I put on mass. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, how much mass are you going to put on in 30 days without steroids, right? So it's not realistic to expect the scale to tell you, yeah, you've gained 2 kilograms of muscle, right? But most importantly, I did make very significant gains because during this challenge, I gained bicep veins. I don't know, did they show on video? It's like, you see this one? That's new. All right, and here, and you see this? That's new. I have veins on my bicep now that weren't there 30 days ago. And that is clearly the true measure of someone's fitness is vascularity. Unfortunately, my scale doesn't give a feedback on how much vascularity you've gained, you know? I even gained veins on my knees. Check out my knee veins. See this? See this? This is a vein on my knee. Although Dean, the cameraman, was like, I have to zoom in and I can't see your veins and stuff. So, but I don't care what the haters say, okay? I have knee veins and I'm proud of them. So what is the conclusion to all this? And should you try this as well? Well, here's my conclusion. First of all, overall, I think this challenge was a success. Although it was really, really difficult, I'm glad that I did it and I'm pleased with the results. But let's make that a little more nuanced because I really have two different conclusions here. The first is for 1 meal a day. And 1 meal a day is something, I'm glad I did it, I experienced what that's like, but it's not something I want to do again. And you know, it's funny, when I did the research before this video, I typed in, is OMAD actually healthy? But the first suggested result was, is OMAD an eating disorder? And at the time I just chuckled about it, but now I have to say, well, in my case, it's not an eating disorder. Now, I have a compulsive eating problem and, complicated relationship with food anyway. And for me, doing 1 meal a day was not good in that sense. I was too worried about food. I was stuffing myself too much. I was thinking about food too much. Basically, my relationship to food did not improve with 1 meal a day. And I think just for that, I am much better off with any other form of intermittent fasting. Even if it's like 20 hours of fasting and 4 hours of eating, or 18-6 or something like that. I don't have any of those, like, let's say, mental health problems that started creeping in when I did 1 meal a day. And apart from that, it's also not something I would generally recommend, because if you consider that most people are already nutritionally deficient on 3 meals a day plus snacks, if you cut that down to 1 meal a day, then yes, you will lose weight, but your nutritional deficiency is going to lead to, brain fog and fatigue and bad digestion and all kinds of problems down the line. So if you care only about losing weight, then sure, that's going to work. But if you care about being healthy and being a high performer and feeding your brain and your body with what it needs, I don't think 1 meal a day is a great way to go about that. The second part of my conclusion is about the training. And while what I did here is not a recommended long-term training plan, I'm not going to continue training like this, and I wouldn't recommend anyone doing this indefinitely. But doing a challenge like this is highly recommended. And in fact, that's my main takeaway from this, is I want to do more challenges like this. Look, the bottom line is I made progress, and I would have never done 3,000 kettlebell swings in 1 month and 1,500 pull-ups in 1 month if it weren't for this challenge. It's because I was doing this challenge, because I'd set these rules for myself, that I pushed through days where usually I would have probably taken a break, or where usually I would have said, well, today I'm not going to do kettlebell swings because I'm already aching all over. And so for getting yourself to push past your usual limits and to expand your comfort zone, I think doing a challenge like this is great. And even the suffering I experienced, it was clearly a bit too much. And if I would have tried to extend this by, let's say, another 2 weeks, I think at some point I would have really fallen into overtraining or maybe gotten injured or something like that. I was basically training too much for these 30 days. But again, with a time-limited challenge, that's one of the advantages, you can push yourself. So that is my main conclusion. I recommend that you do something like this. Pick 2 compound exercises and pick a number of repetitions that is really hard for you to do as a total for the day at the beginning of the challenge. Then do those alternatingly for 30 days, and you'll see that by the end of the challenge, it's much easier for you to hit that rep count. So I hope you enjoyed this. I hope it inspires you to try a similar challenge yourself. And if it does, please let me know what you're going to do by leaving a comment. As for me, I'll be figuring out what other challenge like this I can do next, and I'll be sure to let you know about it.